this area of tall pines right here by the lake. Gonna be a good camping spot. I think I'll build my shelter right here. There's nothing to it but gathering branches. And this time, I'm just going to build a basic tripod shelter. It's a simple one. The basic framework is just 3 poles stood up. And as you can see, it's tall enough for me to stand up in. That's always a plus. Okay, these short little stubbly branches are going to do the job of holding my thatching in place, because here today I'm going to be using pine needles, just the pine needle litter that's all over the ground. And for it to be an effective waterproof shelter, I'm going to have to make it at least 10 inches thick. Alright, it's almost done. You see where sunshine is coming in through some of the spots. If it was raining, I'd have to keep going with this and fill it completely in until there's no more leaks. And that's what stops the leaks, is just piling up enough on it. And sometimes you got to add more branches to the outside, because your material will just start falling down off of it and won't stay up. And you just add a few more branches, that's all. But this is good enough for now. All I needed was a windbreak. Now I can concentrate on putting some fishing gear together. Maybe I can catch some fish. Well, on second thought, maybe I'll just get my bedding put together. For that I like to use tall grasses. It's a thick mat of tall grass. Yeah, a few more armloads of those, and that'll be done. And also, before I try to go fishing, I need to gather up as much firewood as I can get. I need a stock of firewood for tonight. So I'd better do that while I have daylight and have time. And a lot of pine fat right here in this area, just resonated pine wood. I'm going to gather up as much of that as I can get. It burns really bright, really hot, and it's perfect for a fire. Okay, I've got protection from the weather. I've got fire. Now my next concern is water. And that's not going to be a big problem because I'm right on the edge of a spring-fed, crystal clear water lake. So I can just drink the water right out of the lake. It's not something I'd have to boil or purify, although it'd be a good practice to do that. But I know that this lake is safe to drink from. So that's what I'm going to do, get some water. Yeah, see? Just drink it up. Alright, I've got this green vine here. It's about 30 feet long. I'm going to use it for my fishing line. Now I got to do is get a couple thorns together for a hook and get some bait. And I'm going to go fishing. Alright, I'll gather a few of these cactus needles and I'll be in business for fishing. Alright. These cactus needles are kind of hard to grab hold of if you use a pair of pliers. Like what I use right here. See, there's 2 pieces of wood. There's 2 pieces of wood, you grab onto it. They pull right off, just like that. And the idea with using a vine is at the very tips, you got all these slender branches. And what I do is I turn each one of those into a fish hook. Now on this fishing line I can get about 4 of them. See, I got 2 branches there with the slender tips that come out of them. And I'm going to try to transform each one of those into a fish hook. And of course I use pine sap. I'll lash my thorns on there and I'll melt pine sap and I'll coat the threads with the melted pine sap. And that locks the whole thing together and turns it into a strong tool. And because I'm going to be fishing for brim and smallmouth fish, I need little tiny hooks. So this will work perfect. See, I just tie a thread onto the vine. You could use yucca leaf or any other natural material. Just a stray thread from my jacket's just fine. And you put the fish hook on there, wrap it, and don't need to worry about tying it with half hitches or anything because I've coated with pine pitch. But you can tie it if you want to, but these small threads are hard to tie. So I usually just melt my pine sap and attach it with the pine sap. And melted pine sap, you just dunk it right in there, see? Just like that. Roll it around in there. Get it sufficiently coated. Smooth it out with your fingers. If there's any loose strings or anything like that, you just burn those off. And that's all there is to making a fishing line out of vines. Okay, just a little bit of thread from my jacket and a cactus needle. I've been able to transform this vine into a trot line with multiple hooks. Okay, little thorn right there. Alright, now I'm ready to go fishing. Well, I gotta get some bait. Alright, that's the last hook right there. That gives me 4 of them. I can bait all 4 of these hooks on this one fishing line right here. And I'll have some really, really good chances of catching some of those brim or a bass even. So, I gotta go get my bait. And I always get plenty of spare cactus needles and thread or yucca leaf or whatever like that, so in case I break all my fish hooks I can make more. I can gather plenty of termites and stuff like that to eat also, so it's not like I'm going without meat by not having fish. There's even the minnows that I'm about to go and catch, and those make a really good meal too. So even if I don't actually catch a fish with my fishing pole, the bait that I'm using as food, there's just so much out here, and it's actually having a fish doesn't really matter that much. Although a nice great big brim or a bass would be excellent. Well, I'm out of time for this video. I hope to see you next time. My name is Jack Survival. Thank you for watching. Well, it's time for me to build a chair to sit in. And I like the Native American Indian style lounge chair. And to build one of those, the first thing you need is 36 staves, and I'm using the stems from the sawtooth palmetto fronds. And then a couple vines, and that's really all you need. I'm going to show you how to build one of these chairs. And one of the tools I use is this stone punch right here. And it's excellent for splitting wood and other jobs. The first step to building one of the chairs is you got to put a split in the frond right in the center. Quite simply, all you do is you just take your blade and press it right into the center of the frond, and you pry open a split in it just like that. Okay, you see the split? Now I got to do all 36 of them that way. And once all your fronds are split, you take the longest ones, and they go all the way towards the bottom. And what you do is you spread out the split, and you thread each one of them onto the vine. And you work them all the way down to the other end. You'll do all 36 of them that way. It should gradually get shorter as you go to the top, which the loop right here is the top of it. See? Spread it open. Thread them on one at a time, just like beads. Okay, now that that's done, you can see it kind of resembles the backbone of a fish or something. And when you arrange these, you should leave about 21 millimeters or 1 inch of space in between each of the fronds. Now I got to finish the sides. For that I'm going to need a couple more vines. Then all you do is just you take the other vine on the outer edge, you just lock them all into place with the vine. Just twist it back and forth. Make sure each frond goes through the vine. See, you just twist the vine around each one so that it grabs onto each one of the fronds. It's a simple thing, really. Okay, I'll finish this up. And to lock these vines off, all you do is just wrap them back and forth like that, and go back up towards the top. And I usually just go till I run out of vine. You can do both ends that way. See, it's back and forth, and that locks this vine off so it doesn't let the fronds come undone. I got to do the other side. See, you just wrap them back and forth like that. And that's all you got to do. Now let's do the other side. See? You hook it, and then you weave the sides in. Okay, when it's done, it kind of looks like that. See? Got three vines that come together at the top. The sides are woven together. It's firmly attached by the vine going through the center of every one of the ribs. It's a pretty good chair, can't fall apart. Now let me show you how to set it up. See, main vine goes through the center of each one of the ribs. And the outer edges are just twisted back and forth, and each rib placed up where the cross is. And you just do it over and over. When you get here, you got vine tails. You just wrap them back and forth through just like that, and that locks them off. Make sure you have 3 points of contact at the top. The vines loop. Every one of them loops here, loops here. This one loops right here. 3 points of contact. First thing I gotta do is dig a hole. After my hole's dug, I take a forked branch. See, it's a branch with a fork in it, and I hang my chair on it. Sure, it's pulled out a little bit, and then I just recline back. Okay. Now that's a good recliner. I can sit right here by my fire and relax just like I was at home watching TV. And as you can see, the forked stick causes the chair to flex like a spring pole. So it's really comfortable. This little camp's starting to resemble something more like home. Here's a view of it from the side. See, 3 vines hung on there. And when you sit in the chair, you sit right on the fronds, and it pulls tension on the vine. So when you lean against it, it makes a nice stable chair with a comfortable back to sit on. And you'll just have to try one to see. Yeah, I won't be at this campsite long enough to build a hammock. But that chair right there, after working hard all day and hunting and fishing and all that, it's nice to have a comfortable chair to sit in. And that's the genuine method for building a bush camp chair. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Alright, I just snapped 3 stones to make a wick holder for my lamp. See? Break the bracket. And once you've broken the bracket in half, oh, that was a gunshot. Once you've broken the bracket in half, you take a stone knife, like this crow's beak right here, and you just slice into the bracket, and you cut out a slender wick. Just like that. And once you've got a piece that's a sufficient height, you can trim it to however wide you want, and you have a perfect wick for your oil lamp. So tonight when I'm sleeping in my camp, I'm going to have a nice oil lamp to give me light to see by. First thing I do is I put my large stone in there. I set my wick in there. I'll take one crab claw and put it there. Put the other stone right there. Alright, and that holds the wick up, so it stands straight up. Then I drizzle it with oil and fill the shell bowl up with as much oil as it'll hold. I have to be careful not to overfill it. As it burns low on oil, I can refill it. When the wick absorbs all the oil, you can see it turns jet black. My little bowl is filled. So when it gets dark, I've got a very high quality lamp to use inside of my shelter. See, you just pour the oil on there and you fill up your little reservoirs, and when they're full you let it sit until it is completely absorbed, and you just do that over and over until the bracket fungus won't hold any more oil, and then it'll be ready to burn. That process can take 15 to 20 minutes. And of course, if you don't have any oil to burn in a lamp, you can always use solid pine sap, like this pine sap right here. And to set up the pine sap lamp, I use 2 pieces of bracket fungus, a stone, and the solid pine sap I set just above the wicks like that, so that when I light it, it'll melt down into the wick. The wick will absorb the pine sap and it'll burn like a good lamp. Now when it gets dark, I'm going to light that and demonstrate it to you. This is a good way to burn larger logs. So you light a log one direction, and then your smaller twigs, smaller branches, you lean up against it like that. This kind of a firelight puts out plenty of light, plenty of heat. See, a few pine needles. You light it on fire. You have to shield the early flame, but once it heats up and gets burning good, it'll burn nice and bright. And when the pine sap burns low, you just put another little piece of pine sap on there. You maintain the fire like that. These little pine sap lamps work really good. Of course, oil is a little better, a little easier, burns longer, it's easier to maintain. And if it goes out, you just relight it. I just use pine fat matches. This is the oil lamp inside my little shelter. And tonight when I'm laying on my bed, I'll have a couple hours of good light without having to throw wood on a fire. When the oil level burns low, starts burning low, I'll just add a little bit more oil. But traditionally, at dark time, you burn one shell full of oil before bed. And that gives you about an hour of light. And after my bowl full of oil is burned up, my 3 stones are going to be really hot. And I use those for hot rocks. Yeah, they're small, but they stay hot for about an hour. And usually that's enough to warm up those cold fingers and toes. Small, but extremely effective. My oil-soaked bracket fungus, when I wake up 2-3 o'clock in the morning and I'm cold, I'll light it then. Instead of crawling out of my nice warm shelter here to go build a fire or whatever, I'll light my bracket fungus. I'll use it to warm up with. Well, it's time for me to call it a night. I'm going to use my boots for a pillow. And my sweatshirt, I'm going to use it for a blanket. Good night. There's nothing like being stranded out miles from nowhere in the middle of a thunderstorm. One way of traveling in the wilderness in a rainstorm and still be able to stay dry is to build a duvet, which is basically a mat made out of tall grasses. I'm going to show you how to build one of those today. And this tall grass here is the same thing I like to use for my bedding. It is a perfect species for building a duvet out of. So I'm going to gather a few armloads of this, and then I can get started. See, it's a little stone knife. That's all I use. See, and once you've gathered a large bundle, you've got enough, then you can get started on putting it together. But first I have to find a couple supple vines, a couple flimsy, thin vines to tie it together with. Alright, if you can't find enough honeysuckle vine, like this vine right here, see, it just kind of naturally twists itself up into a cordage, and it'll take an overhand knot really well. If you can't find that, the next best choice is to get pine tree roots. And I couldn't find enough honeysuckle to really do the job for me here today. So that's what I've decided to use instead of the vine, is pine tree roots. See, in 3 different places I tied a root here, I tied an overhand knot in the root there, and an overhand knot in the root there. And basically what you do is you just take bundles. You take bundles of your grass, make sure they're all nicely lined up. A lot of times I'll reverse them because they're tapered. They're always smaller on one end than the other. If you want to make a mat that stays square, you got to reverse end for end on each bundle. And then all you do is you take each new bundle you lay on there, you just tie it off with overhand knots. And you want to be really careful not to break your roots. And as you can see, by securing each bundle with an overhand knot, it slowly starts to come to shape. And if you run out of root, you just pass a root through the previous bundle and tie overhand knot on it and continue on. Pretty simple process. Okay, you can see the progress. It's starting to lay together like a nice wide mat. And the tighter you tie them together, the more waterproof it's going to be. Well, I've used up all the tall grasses that this area has to offer right here, so I'll have to go find some more. This isn't quite wide enough. I'd like it to be almost twice as big. So I'm going to have to go somewhere else and get more. So I'll just have to use this until I find more. And it sounds like that storm is settling in. Later on tonight, when and if it quits raining, I can use this for a bed to sleep on. And because I use pine roots instead of my cordage, I'll be able to use my cordage for something really important. Alright, made it back to camp. I'm glad it's nice and dry in here. Okay, now this is even wet, it's all just nice and powdery dry. Big campsite here. Yeah, that's going to be a bit more of a comfortable mattress. And that's the traditional method for building a primitive duvet. And the way that rain's coming down out there, I really need one on a day like this. I still have to get out there and go get me some more grasses because that duvet isn't quite big enough. That's what I gotta go do now. Let's take a quick look at how to tie things together without using rope. Like, one thing you can use is these claspers off of the grapevines. As you can see, when they grow naturally, they grab onto branches and they hold on really tight. So you can take the claspers off of the vine, and you can do the same thing. You can just wrap them around 2 twigs or whatever you're trying to tie together, and so long as you have a sufficient amount of loops to go around it, you can tie the 2 pieces together and they won't come apart. To demonstrate that, see, all you do is just wrap it right around. See? Wrap it. Wrap it. Just wrap them around like that when you're done, see? You got 2 twigs tied together, and it'll hold them together sufficiently enough that they won't come apart. And then also, tree barks make good cordages. Like this honeysuckle tree right here. It has red flowers on it. They come out in the early fall, and the flowers are edible on this plant also. But the bark makes an extremely good cordage. And to get the bark off of it, what I do is I reach in near the bottom of the stalk. I'll break it, just like that. You break it. And holding on to, you put your fingers under the bark, and using your finger as a leverage point, you pull back on it, and it'll slip the bark right off of the branch. And yeah, this stuff is really tough. I'll have to cut this one with a knife. There's 2 different ways you can do this. I've already showed you the spin and twist method. You spin it and twist it like that. Another way you can do it, what I do, is I'll put my foot on top of the bark, and then just using my hands, I'll spin it, twist it up nice and tight like this. And you do that for the entire length of the cordage that you're working with. And if you spin it tight enough to where it wants to kink, you grab it in the middle, fold it in half, and let go of it. It'll spin itself up into a nice little cord. And that's really the easiest way to do that. And just always remember that suitable rope barks strip from the branches easily, and they're incredibly strong, and you almost can't break them when you grab it like that and try to pull it in half. It just will not break. So that's how you know that you have a good bark for making rope out of, is the snap strength of it. When you can grab onto it and pull it, you can't break it, then you have a good material to use. Alright, let's go find some roots, and I'll show you how to make a quick rope out of pine tree roots. And oak tree limbs also make a good rope making material, but not these larger ones that have the dark bark on them. What you need to use is the younger, lighter colored barked spring growth, like what's on this branch right here. And you just strip the leaves off of it, and what you do is you twist it. You just grab onto it. And you twist them right up. You see, they don't snap off. They don't tear. They twist right up into a cordage, and you can twist them until they kink, and bend them in half, or you can just twist them up like this and use them to tie, because it kind of separates. It kind of splits apart and separates a little bit, and the wood inside there is really wiry, and these oak branches make a wonderful cordage. So no need to mess with messy strings and stuff like that. Okay, now I'm going to try to dig around and find some roots to make cordage out of. And I don't have a shovel, I don't have a knife, and I certainly don't want to use my hands to try and dig around in the soil with. So what I do is I'll take a branch like this, just a dead one, something I can break, and find one with a nice little fork on it, like this one has right here. You need like an adze, see? And you can use that to dig around in the dirt. And it'll drag the soil up, and it'll even help you find the roots, because it'll grab onto them. So once you find a root, then you can reach in there. Yeah, see? The pine tree root right there. Try not to use my hands as much as I can. I'd rather use my tool. So you grab onto these little wiry roots. These little roots right here. They're just like the oak tree branches. They're slender, they twist up good, they're wiry, and a lot of times you don't even have to twist these, you can just use them to tie with, and it's the perfect thing. And just to demonstrate how well they tie, see, I haven't twisted this one. Look at that, good and strong. See, yeah, nothing wrong with that, is there? So, and that's just a normal pine tree root, is all that is. And there's other roots you can use. Pine tree happens to be one of the best. Probably a spruce. Spruce works the best out of all the pine tree roots. But these lodgepole pines, well, they have really good roots to tie with. So if you need rope, you don't necessarily have to make a rope. All you need to do is get a branch or a root or a banana leaf, or the clasp was off of a grapevine, and you've got rope. And basically the only time I would ever use yucca leaves or some kind of material like that where I would be joining fibers in is if I needed to make a really long rope, like if I wanted to make a snare line, something I needed like 20 or 30 feet of rope for. Fishing lines, which roots work the best for fishing lines. But if I needed to make a long fishing line to extend my root hook line or whatever. I would use yucca leaves or something like that, and I would break them up into the fibers and twist it up into a rope and add in as much as I needed to make it as long as I wanted. But for just normal tying, like building a shelter or something like that, the shorter root pieces are abundantly long enough, and you don't really need to do all that twisting and braiding to make a long rope. Only if you need a long rope would you want to attempt to do something like that.